Welcome to the Focal Insights Podcast Founder Hour edition, hosted by co-founder Joe Pollock. Joe has been in the e-commerce industry for over 25 years. He grew and bootstrapped his own startup to a successful exit. Founder Hour episodes go behind the scenes to learn how some of the best e-commerce brands were founded, grown, and operated straight from the founders themselves. Founder Hour is brought to you by Focal Software, a new generation ERP and operation suite for e-commerce brands and third-party marketplace sellers. Focal was built with SMB brands and marketplace sellers in mind to help them grow profitably. Now let's welcome our host, Joe Pollock.
Hello and welcome to the Focal E-commerce Insights Podcast, where we chat with e-commerce entrepreneurs about business, selling online, and how to overcome challenges for success. We have Peter Rain with us today. Peter and his brother Mark are the founders of Twilla, a company that designs and sells adjustable pillows of various shapes, sizes, and uses. Peter's background is in industrial design, and he brings that experience and expertise to Twilla, which he started in 2019. Peter, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, great to be here. Thanks, Joe.
All right. Peter, when I talk with business owners, one thing is always consistent when you talk about them starting their business, and that's that they really felt like they had a need or something nagging at them to start that business. But beyond that, once they jump into it, the stories always change and they're always very different. So you've got, I describe it as people having a goal in mind and they know where they're going, but they're not sure how they're going to get there or what path it's going to take, like a journey around the world where you're going to be in a bunch of unknown places and not sure how it's all going to work out. But you have to do it. And so you take the leap and you do it. So why don't you start off with telling us a little bit about how that process went for you and how you started your own business and eventually got into selling online as well?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I have always had this desire. Just this latent desire in the back of my mind. I got to start my own business. And I remember back in school, when I first figured out what industrial design even was, like I was super excited. I'm like, okay, I can learn how to design and develop products. And it was super intriguing to me. Even back then in school, I knew I didn't want to take the typical path and design products for another company my whole life. I knew eventually at some point I wanted to do it for myself. And I will say I did have a career, a corporate career working for other companies. And I don't regret that. It was 12, 13 years that I was working for other companies. And I learned a lot. I gained a lot of experience during that time. But really for me, it was just a matter of time. And I had a plan for it ended up being 5 years. Initially, my plan was to save up money for 3 years. I ended up staying a couple of years longer. And I was just putting money away with this idea of starting a business. Now, a lot of other people will have a specific idea in mind, and it's okay, I want to build this or that. But for me, my plan was get a big chunk of change, travel the world, reset, gather ideas, and then start a business, depending on my experiences and what came to me. And like you said, back in 2019, I had traveled the world and had some time to reset, have some fun. And I remember very vividly this one point. I had gotten an office. I was in Philadelphia at the time, and I had put all this money away, and I had put all this pressure on myself. And so it was this moment where I'm sitting there with my whiteboard and my desk and no specific product idea, but just sitting there thinking, what have I done? Like this feeling of being overwhelmed and all this pressure had gotten to me. So I tell that story from the standpoint of don't put too much pressure on yourself. Stay loose. Everybody's got their own.
Knowing you had to do it for yourself and then doing it were two different things. You hit that point where you actually had to get the ball rolling.
Yeah. And to get the ball rolling, it just took a little bit of time. initially it also took some discipline. I'm a disciplined person, but when you work for someone else, it's easy to get in a routine and you have responsibilities, but you don't have all the responsibility. And so transitioning to working for myself, just that daily routine, getting into that took a little bit of time. And so once I got in a groove, I started working. I had a number of ideas that I was working on. And I remember while I was traveling all over the world, one thing that stood out to me when I was staying in hotels and Airbnbs, no matter where I was, I couldn't find a pillow that I liked. And it was, for whatever reason, just stood out to me at the time. And then I got back to my office. I was working on different ideas and trying to develop different product ideas and seeing if anything would really pull and tug at me. And I had done this for a couple of months, and I had some initial concepts and different products that I thought were cool. I like mountain biking. I like outdoor sports. I like staying active and doing a variety of things. And I wanted to do something that, from my perspective, was cool. And so I had these different concepts, and I called a meeting with a couple of my brothers, and I'm showing them these different product ideas. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying to pick a direction to build a business to really grow into something big. And I showed them these different concepts. I can't remember them all, but it was just like I had this idea for a tool chest and like some bike component concepts, just a bunch of random ideas. And I'm presenting them to my brothers, and they're like, yeah, okay. Yeah. Cool. And then the last thing I showed them, I'm like, okay, I got this other idea. I'd been working on this pillow concept just for me personally, because I couldn't find a pillow that I liked. And I had been buying a bunch of competitors' pillows, and just out of my personal curiosity, cutting them open, seeing what was inside, looking at the different materials and adjusting them myself, like learning how to sew. And I had some pillows that I had adjusted and they were comfortable. And then I had dabbled in this idea of how I could make them adjustable for other people. And so I presented that to my brothers, and they're like, I think you got something there. You should spend some more time on that. And my initial reaction was like, oh, this is just for me. I don't want to be a pillow designer. Who does that? And so it was just a funny moment. And I did take their advice. I started diving more into this problem. And what really pulled me in, the intrigue as I looked more into it, was this market size. And not from the standpoint of money, which is good, meaning there's opportunity financially, but this idea that almost everybody sleeps on a pillow. And this idea that I hear so many people complaining about how they can't find a good pillow, and recognizing this problem and seeing that adjustability is really important. Everybody has their own preferences. They have their own body types and preferred sleeping positions. And just the enormity of this problem really intrigued me. And knowing that a lot of people just aren't even aware that it's a problem. They just accept that I've got a pillow and it's terrible, and they just deal with it.
You just smash it into some kind of shape that works for you. So it wasn't always, it didn't start with pillows, even though you saw a definite need for it in your travels, but you were looking at other products. It ended up.
Well, yeah. And on that note, I will say that was a good thing that I learned personally. Was early on, I was going about my product development, this business creation with a subconscious pursuit of whatever I was doing and connecting that to my self-identity and maybe my self-worth. And it took me a while to recognize how that's not a healthy thing and not good. And so I think pursuing this pillow project was an important part of my journey of gaining the confidence to own what I'm doing and separate myself from that. Having the awareness to separate those things, I think, was an important lesson that I had to learn. As I dove into doing the pillows, I dove in, during the time of development, I ended up being in New York City for part of the time. And for months on end, I was going to the fabric district in the city and I taught myself how to sew and build just hundreds of prototypes, exploring this idea of how to allow for anyone to easily adjust a pillow, not being limited by the filling materials. That's how I developed this pod concept, where I have the outer pillow, and within the inner core, it's got these smaller pillows, which we call pods, which you can add or remove from the pillow to change the overall size of the pillow. And tweaking the details, getting it just right, took a while to develop. And finally, in 2019, in the fall, I had a couple of concepts that I had tested with some potential customers and was getting there in terms of being confident that I've got something here and I want to go price it out. And from my corporate jobs, I had some experience with working in China and going to factories there. And so I bought a ticket. I wanted to explore all of the different options of where I could manufacture this pillow and get different pricing. And I went to Thailand, I went to Vietnam, and I will say I love Vietnam. Like, I had a great time there. I would love to manufacture there. Back in 2019, at least, maybe things have changed. But when I was there, they weren't ready to work with startups. It wasn't a place where I could just go in and easily start working with a factory. I know a lot of bigger companies are able to have the finances to go in and build a building and get set up there, but not for me. And so I ended up going to China and found a factory there. And I know politically, China, we have their tensions. It's got a bad rap right now, but I will say I love working with China. Like, the communication is easy. They're set up to work with smaller businesses. They're willing to take risks like we are. And they can also do really good quality work. I think they also get a bad reputation for creating cheap products. That's just because that's what businesses ask for. But if you want a quality made product, you can ask for that. You can work with them to get the pricing right and develop good quality products.
There's a lot of very high quality products in China. As you mentioned, the bicycling industry has most of the carbon fiber frames now. And there's a little device called iPhone that's made there as well that people consider pretty high quality. It's across the board.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And so anyway, yeah, I've been really happy with them, but I found a factory and had the first run of pillows manufactured with, I will say, when I was traveling around in 2019, I did get sick. And so I may have been one of the first to get COVID. I like to claim that. I'm sure I wasn't, but I was over there. I got better before I came home. Luckily, I was over there for a while. But yeah, I was like, I don't feel so good. I need some flu medicine. What can I do? And anyway,
Paul, when you talk about e-commerce, oftentimes we'll talk about the impact that COVID had, but it's usually not that kind of an impact that you're describing, where you were the first ever to have it. That's a different COVID.
Let's claim it. Yeah, I like claiming that. It sounds good. Maybe. But yeah, it did delay things. And so I think the first order finally was delivered in 2021, I'm pretty sure. And so anyway, it had been a while. I'd been working on this idea. I was super excited. I worked with the factory through COVID to work on cost and tweak things as much as possible to get it the best that I could. And in waiting for that first order, it was exciting. I was super pumped up. I just filed for a patent. I got the trademark. I was ready to go, got the website up and running, and I got the order. And it was my first big delivery that I had received. And I'm just loading this up in the garage and stuff. And it's, okay, let's get going. And I start inspecting product and I'm like, what is this? What? Look, there's a stain on this. And I started opening more, and the pillows had gotten contaminated in the shipment. The bags weren't sealed, and there was cotton fabric that had absorbed a lot of whatever. I don't know exactly what happened, but if the desiccant packs that are supposed to keep the moisture out weren't put in the right place, and the whole order was ruined. And so all this anticipation, all this excitement, I got to this point and I was just devastated. And to make a long story short, this part of it, I was able to negotiate a decent deal, and I ended up losing a decent amount of money though at the same time. But I was at a point where I'm like, I don't know what to do anymore. I'm like devastated, and I had lost this money. And at that point, that's when I went to my brother, and I went to him and I'm like, look, I've saved up all this money. I've still got some left. I'm very frustrated right now. I don't know what to do. He had recently left his corporate job. He was at Yeti Coolers, and he was looking at starting his own thing. He had some of his own ideas. And so we started talking, and we're like, maybe we should start working together. Maybe we should try something together. And the more and more we talked, we said, okay, let's give it a go, and let's do another reset. We can do whatever we want. We've got funding, we've got opportunity, and what should we do? And the patent had just come through. And like I mentioned with the trademark, and I had bought the domain, and just the opportunity pulled us both in again. Even though all of that frustration with the first order going bad, there was just this pull of, there is a great opportunity here to really disrupt this market. And the more and more we talked about it, the more and more we got excited and didn't want to give up on the idea. And we made a few tweaks to the product. We found a new factory and got to work again. And that's when in 2022, we had our second first launch. And so in 2022 of December, we launched on Kickstarter and had a successful campaign despite not really knowing what we were doing. We didn't know like all of the tips and tricks of advertising early and making basically an advertisement for it. We just got on there and said, hey, we've got this pillow coming out. Here's what it does. Hope you like it. But it ended up doing well. And that's how we got our start. And then we've been building the business ever since. So yeah, a long history.
That's all right. That's good stuff. And the next thing that I wanted to get into was the challenges throughout that process. But let's jump a little bit to e-commerce. But you did mention some of the things that you dealt with were discipline, owning your own company, confidence, separating yourself a little bit, your ego a little bit, it sounds like, from the business to where you're known entity. And then the hardcore real challenge of the manufacturing part of it and shipping and just having a complete shipment damage. So those are all big challenges for sure that you overcame. How about talk a little bit about your jump into e-commerce? It sounds like you got your website going and we're selling immediately then online. Is that your main channel, or are you doing distribution or?
It's
Uh,
our main channel, especially early on. We focused on the local market advertising wise. And with this first order, we wanted to learn from our customers about the product. And so we launched the Kickstarter, we delivered, we learned from those orders, from those customers. We asked for a lot of feedback. And the initial 6 months after that, that's when we really built our website. That's when we had a bunch of photo shoots and put together our plans and from a marketing and advertising standpoint. And so, yeah, we did make some tweaks to the product in that first 6 months, made those improvements. And then the second half of 2023 was when we really started pushing advertising and started growing. And the local markets, just mostly in the West Coast, it's a plenty big market for us to get started. And so we saw a lot of great sales and had a good first year. But then just this last year is when we're starting to push more nationally. And so it's mostly our website, Twilla.com. And then we're getting onto Amazon. And then just with this order that just showed up, what was it, just a couple of weeks ago, we've just started to push retail because we have retail packaging now. And we're in a few stores here locally, but are just at a point where we're starting to push to try and get into more national retail stores. And yeah, but from an e-commerce standpoint, it's mostly our website. And we built the site through Shopify. And I'll give a shout out to them. They're awesome. Like that's why this e-commerce market is exploding. It's just, they make it so easy. And so anybody can get on there, throw some photos up, and you can start a business. It's super easy.
Okay, so you're selling on the Shopify website and then you're getting into Amazon. What's your plan for Amazon? Is that going to be US, Canada, Mexico, Europe?
Yes. Yep. US, Canada, and Mexico, and not Europe yet. We've had our initial product listings on Amazon and haven't pushed it a ton. And so that's where we're at right now. And we're introducing a couple of new products at the moment. We've got a new travel size pillow. We've got a new hotel collection pillow that we're introducing and a new version of the body pillow. And so we're just creating those listings like as we speak. And so with Amazon, what we've learned is it takes time to get noticed. There's so many sellers on there. So to be relevant, there's a lot of ad spend initially that you've got to do to be relevant. And it just takes time.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And that's a lot of the work that we do. We get a lot of people that are under the misconception that the hardest part is just getting on Amazon, but that's really when it starts. There's quite a bit of detail in there that needs to be constantly worked on. Have you looked at Walmart.com as well?
We will. It's something that we haven't gotten to yet, but it's just a matter of time. It's in the plans. Even though I've been doing this since 2019, now as I tell you the story, it's been a real roller coaster. Yeah, things take time for sure.
Yeah, it always is. So when you talk about getting up and running and solving some of these challenges that you face along the way, oftentimes there's technologies or processes or tools that work for you. You mentioned Shopify. Amazon really is a tool in itself. So those are a couple of the things that you're using to solve business problems. In this case, growth and revenue. What about from an operations standpoint? What tools do you lean on to run your business and what helps you streamline operations?
That's the magic nowadays of business. Warehousing is a huge back-end thing that we're looking into right now. Up until this point, we've been warehousing ourselves and getting help with shipping locally. But
so you need
incredible.
A garage at this point.
Yeah, definitely need a bigger garage. And so we're in negotiations right now, trying to figure out who to go with. And these companies handle returns. They handle all the shipping, and you can get help for customer service. And we're doing customer service now, so we're not leveraging that. But like you asked the question, what technologies are out there, like customer service with AI, you can solve a lot of problems. We're at a stage where we're looking to streamline as much as we can, to be as efficient as we can so that we can grow as quickly as I can. And I say that from the standpoint of our push initially, especially that first year, it was very intentional to not grow too fast. We did not want to get ahead of ourselves because we knew, just being product guys, we knew we had a lot to learn about the product and just little tweaks to make sure that we got it just right, that it captured the most people from a adjustability standpoint, that people were happy with the product. And then also from, if you don't mind me jumping into just marketing a little bit, we had a lot to learn from a marketing standpoint. Messaging. We don't have a background in marketing, and a lot of learning experiences there. We've hired a couple of different marketing agencies, and they've been okay, but a lot of times these mid-level marketing companies, I don't want to knock anybody because they've been good, but a lot of times it's just, you think you're getting a marketing agency, but they're just running ads for you. There's not a lot of creative. And from my perspective, that's important. Learning about marketing has been eye-opening from the standpoint of being a product guy. Initially, when we launched, the thought was, okay, we've got to market all of these different things that this pillow can do, for example. Like, our pillow is adjustable. It is adjustable. And you can do this with it. You can do that with it. You can build it however you want. And so initial marketing was all about the product and the function. And what we've learned over time is, okay, that's great information secondarily if people are pulled in. But initially it's just too much information. It's okay, but why do I care about this? Why should I care about this? And really learning how to connect with customers has been a great learning experience. And this is something that we're still learning. Like, it's not like we've figured it out, but that's the difference with good marketing for sure, is the simplicity. And I would even say the art form of good marketing, because most of my career and growing up, I've looked at professional marketers as, I don't get what they do. I don't understand what makes a good marketer. I don't get it. And I think it's fair to say, at least from my perspective, a lot of people will think the same about designers. What do they do? You just make this look better. Who cares? But there's an art to it. And ideally, there's always a reason behind, an intention and a simplicity behind the design decisions that you make. And I think the same goes with marketing. Simplicity goes a long way. How are you helping your customers survive and thrive? You don't want to burn too many calories. You want to make sure that they're able to get what you're saying simply and easily. So there's that aspect that we've learned of trying to keep our messaging simple. And that's just been an important learning lesson as we're right now turning to our goals to grow nationally. And yeah, lots to learn there, but we're getting there for sure.
You basically reinvented something that people are already extremely familiar with and don't necessarily think or know that it needed to be reinvented. Like a better mousetrap would be an old analogy, but that's what you're doing. So you got
no question. That has been the biggest challenge. And it's initially, I think we had a lot of good customers that were that early adopter type who were willing to take a chance and not be overwhelmed by our early messaging. From a product design standpoint, that wasn't the intention. The whole idea was to very simply allow the customer to just add or remove filling. That's it. That's it. And so keeping that messaging simple has been our learning experience. The initial idea was just to be able to change the overall size of the pillow. And we achieved that. and it was exciting. And it's okay, let's get this out in the market. But the discovery, the unexpected discovery, as customers were using this pillow, was the way that these smaller pillows or pods work with the outer layers of the pillow. It really allows you to position filling exactly where you want. And so that's where this idea of pillow shaping comes in. And it was this unexpected discovery, and how to communicate that to the customers has been the challenge and opportunity, because it's one of those things where, exactly like you said, it can be overwhelming, where it's like, why does this matter? But for instance, like if you want specific neck support, these pods allow you to just push extra filling towards the front of the pillow, and you can customize that curve of your neck. And like you can put filling on one half of the pillow and have less filling on the other. And if you roll around in the night, more for side sleeping, less filling for back sleeping or stomach sleeping. So exciting discoveries, but how to communicate those things has been eye-opening and a challenge. And I would say still a challenge, something I think we're getting better at, but I think the opportunity is still there to try and continue to communicate that more simply and say why you need this, and connect more emotionally with customers.
If you really boil it down, the most important thing we do in any day and every day is sleep, right? That's the most important thing you can do for your health, your longevity, your recovery,
No
especially
question.
things like sports and stress. That brings us pretty much up to date on where you're at today. Let's switch gears a little bit to the future, because when we talk about e-commerce, we're at about a $6 trillion market right now, which is amazing to think about. And by 2027, it's going to be 8 trillion. So rapidly growing. And right now, about 20% of all retail purchases are online. So as that number grows, the revenue or the sales numbers grow, that percentage is going to grow as well. So have you given much thought to that as far as the kind of growth you're expecting and what your plans are as far as taking advantage of that, more of the same or additional markets, or what are your thoughts for the future of e-commerce?
I would first say that it just brings a lot of optimism. I think it's opportunity. And you mentioned the first iPhone. That was what, just in 2007 or 8 or something like that?
It was.
And yeah. And so and I think it's something around 70% of our customers are viewing our website on mobile. And so you think about that and how it hasn't been around for that long. And that's just exciting. That's where I'm like, okay, I don't feel like there is an opportunity. I'm trying to slow other companies down. I'm saying like, hey, everybody, let's go. This is an opportunity. Start your business now. This is a golden age to really start a business online, because I think the other factor is it took a while for customers to get comfortable with making purchases online. And now with shipping and how easy things are, and with what Amazon has done, the opportunity is just super exciting. Our plans,
That trust level too that you talked about, which was the biggest obstacle, especially as the ticket price goes up, because do I trust that I can put in a credit card? And I think technology is going to solve that, probably to the point where purchases are just a couple taps of buttons. Because of the security that can be put on those based on your relationship to your phone, probably with crypto encryption and things of that nature, that will eliminate all fraud from online purchases. And then that obstacle that's probably many hundreds of billions of dollars as a blocker will be gone.
like with Apple Pay and Shop Pay and all the others, it's like Google has their version as well. It's already happening, and it's super exciting.
Yeah, very easy to do.
Very easy. And so, yeah, your question of what are our plans? It's just grow as fast as possible, but we're pretty conservative in that we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We've got a long game plan ahead of us where we want to make sure we're doing things right every step of the way. And so especially with funding this business myself, I'm a little bit more careful and probably to a fault, honestly. That's something I've definitely learned early on. Like the reason why I wanted to fund this business myself was because way back in 2008, I tried starting my own business. That was the first time I tried starting my own business. And I had this idea for a dog training device. And I didn't have the money back then. And so I put together a pitch deck. I made a bunch of prototypes and I ended up raising, I think it was $50,000, and got this investor who was a friend. And for a number of reasons, the business, after a couple of years, fizzled. And it was a great learning experience, but I don't know what the word is. Traumatizing is the easy one, but it really affected me. I just felt terrible losing all that investor's money. And so that was the idea of why I wanted to fund this next business myself. And that's the long answer of, or the long point I wanted to make of having funded the business myself has made me a little bit gun shy at times in terms of how aggressive I've been. And so I'm at a point now where we should go pretty aggressively and grow and take advantage of all these opportunities, especially from a product standpoint. We've learned so much and we feel like it's really dialed in. We've got the retail packaging. And so now is the time to strike.
It's always a fine line between protecting what you have and taking risks, because you have to take risks to get a reward, and rewards not always money, but whatever your goals are in a business, if it's growth, giving people jobs, there's a lot of different goals, and you always have to take risks. That leads us to our next topic, which would be tips for anyone who's looking to get into this. And I think you touched on a few. One was go for it. You said earlier, make the leap because of the opportunities that are in the future here, especially in e-commerce. And then some tips there on be careful how you spend money and what your plan is. What other tips do you have for anybody that may be considering starting their own business or even dipping their toe in e-commerce, which a lot of people do? I think there's 20 million sellers on eBay, which is mostly individuals. So that's a lot of people that are already business for themselves to some degree, a small degree, but yeah, a lot of them are thinking of probably going a little bigger.
Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind would be to talk to someone, find a mentor if possible. It's great to read books. If you've got this itch to start your own business, you can easily talk yourself out of it, because especially if you have a comfortable job, if you've got a corporate job where you've got these benefits and it's just easy. And I get it. I ended up staying at my job a couple of years longer than I initially planned. And I get it. It's comfortable and it's easy to talk yourself out of it and find reasons to not. But I would say find a mentor, find someone to talk to gather real information so that you can educate yourself as much as possible. Learn from other people's mistakes, learn from my mistakes, and just, it's worth it because it's so fulfilling. You've sold a business and I'm not even there yet, but like just this process of building something from nothing and seeing it through and seeing customers interact with the product is very fulfilling and satisfying. And aside from all that, I think the personal journey that you can gain from doing something like this is why I try to encourage everyone to start their own business. A lot of it is about your personal journey and the things that you can learn about yourself, and pushing yourself is so valuable. And yeah, talk to someone, and there's always an answer in it. Facing the reality is important, but moving forward through those obstacles is the biggest thing. You just got to keep taking baby steps. As you knock down those doors, more doors will open. And so it's important to just try, and opportunities will come.
Yeah, all good advice and said. I like the part about finding somebody who's been there and done it so that you can learn from their mistakes. This stuff, there's always mistakes. I guess maybe the goal is to minimize them because there's always going to be
Yes.
mistakes. And that's like you just said, how you learn about yourself and how you learn about the world, maybe in the big picture.
Yeah, that saying of fail fast. I don't know who said it, but it's so true. You want to learn from your mistakes. And personally, I've had many times in my design career where I get stuck in a perfecting loop where I'm just trying to get the product just perfect. And I just had to gain the awareness. And so what I would say in giving advice to someone is just gain that awareness, the reality of what you're doing as much as possible. And other people can help you see that, because it was just the fear. I get caught in these perfecting loops because it's the fear of what other people will think, or any kind of fear will keep you from bringing what you have to say out into the world, what you can bring to the world. And
There's another saying, I think it's don't let perfection be the enemy of greatness.
oh, love it. Yeah, that's a great one.
Because you can,
It's so true.
yeah,
It's so true.
yeah,
But becoming aware of that and understanding that for yourself is important, because it really does come down to that personal awareness a lot of times of just get real with yourself, like face reality. And if you go for it, I promise you, if you keep learning, more opportunities will just show up.
yeah, said. As we're starting to wrap it up here, thanks very much for your story. All fascinating stuff. Like I said at the start here, it's always fun to hear that journey because every one of them is different. 100%. There are no two that are alike. So thank you for that. And why don't you
Thank you.
tell our listeners a little bit about your website, where to find you, and anything else you want to share?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. You can go to twilla.com. It's TWILA.com. It's actually an old English word that means sewn with a double thread. And just talking about the name, it's coming up with a name for your business is a whole other thing. The messy process of making up words and going through the dictionary. And when I found that, I was just like, it's perfect. The connection to fabric and the domain was reasonably priced. And so anyway, TWILA.com. And we have a discount code for your listeners for 20% off. If you at checkout, just type in Focal 20 for 20% off. Focal 20, and it's off any product. And yeah.
Focal 20. Fantastic. Thank you for that. So you're helping everyone with their business advice and their business and saving them a little money when they want to upgrade their pillow.
There you go.
I like it. All right. Thanks very much, Peter. And I hope our listeners got something out of learning from your journey. I certainly have. So thanks for joining today, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Joe. It's been super fun. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure's all mine. Take care.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Focal Insights Podcast. If you like this episode, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can be alerted of new episodes. See you next time.